The B.R.A.T Show, inspiring every woman to be bold, relevant, addictive, and transformative.
Welcome to The B.R.A.T Show. I'm your host, KATHY BARTHEL, also known as Bratty Kathy. Today, we have one of those guests who makes being a brat look so easy. Her name is Tsufit, and Tsufit is a former Dean's List litigation lawyer who left the law after 10 years, as she says, for the limelight, for showbiz. She became an actress and a singer, and these days, she takes all of that and she helps business people, all kinds of business people, to actually own that star power that they have because it's going to help them get clients, attract attention. She shows them how to be stars in their business. And of course, her book is called Step Into the Spotlight, right? Of course.
What book?
So, of course. So welcome, Tsufit. Thank you so much for joining the show. I'm really excited to have you here.
Pleasure being here with you, Kathy.
Yeah. Now, Tsufit, when I coach video clients, people to get comfortable on camera. And one of the things that I always say to them is, if you're not repelling someone, you're doing it wrong. Meaning you got to own what makes you distinct, right? Who you are, what you're here to do, no matter the pushback. But we don't always start out that way. When I was reading your book, I was struck by how you said you were a shy kid. You had this unusual name and you were this little girl, who wasn't maybe as forthcoming perhaps as you are now. Can you take us back to little Tsufit with the big interesting name and what that was like to be the shy kid and how you worked through it?
Well, it's funny. It's not entirely true that I was a shy kid, but there were definitely moments where I felt shy, and I felt shy in certain situations. And the reason I say it's not entirely true that I was a shy kid, I think it's true for all of us. There are situations in which we feel, I don't know if shy, I don't know what technically and medically the word shy means, but there are, like, for example, if my mother would call me into the living room to meet her friend, I would be in the other room behind the door saying, yeah, Mom, I don't really want to. If people would invite me over, like, Kathy, if you invited me over to your house, let's say you had a party
Yeah.
in the days, remember those days?
I remember those days.
Exactly. Invite people over, right?
Yep.
You invite 10 of your closest friends, you invite me, and you know I'm a singer, you say, Tsufit, bring your guitar, right?
Yeah.
I might be shy about singing in front of those 10 people, but I am totally not shy about singing in front of 1,400 people, which I did at, a Toronto amphitheater.
Yeah.
So with that proviso, I'll go back to when I was a child, as you asked me. So on the one hand, when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old, I would get up with the neighborhood kids, another friend of mine on the stage, which was her back deck or porch, and sing for the neighborhood kids. Okay, I wasn't shy to do that. But I remember when I was in French class in the US, I had done really well in French in Canada. I go there and I'm getting like C's, D's, maybe F's in the beginning when I was getting A's here because they taught it differently. And I think we just did oral and they did written, whatever. I didn't know how to do it. So I was very shy in that class at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They had the desks arranged in a certain lineup, it didn't. In the morning at 9 o'clock, I was the Tsufit who can stand on a stage in front of 1,000 people. At 9 o'clock, we had biology. The desks were arranged in a square, and I felt very comfortable. And I owned the room, right?
Yeah.
At 1 o'clock every day, I'm this shy little mouse, right? So I think we all have both sides of it. And I'll tell you an interesting story. So I'm at my high school reunion. And I go up to a girl, she's 5, 6 years older than me. And I said to her, you don't know who I am, but I was in class with your brother secretly between you and I, Kathy, and nobody else. I kind of had a bit of a crush on her brother. I didn't tell her that. And I said, so I'm starting to tell her that I'm in the class. And she goes, oh, I know who you are. She said, when we moved to the neighborhood, you were 8 years old. You walked up to me and you said, stuck out your hand like this. Hi, I'm Tsufit. Welcome to the neighborhood. So I don't know if this story is true or not because I have absolutely no recollection of this, but why would she make this up, right? Like, I don't even know this person, right? So it must, so, you know, I think we all have those aspects to our personality, right? The thing is accessing it and finding situations in which you feel comfortable enough to let it out. There are still situations today that, you know, I might sit at the back of the room, I might kind of feel not like I don't belong or whatever. And then in most situations now I walk in and I own the joint, right? So it really, I think is within all of us to find, you know, I call it access your inner Elvis, you know, like find that, because even Elvis at the beginning, right? He went to, was it Sun Records in,
I think, in Memphis or something?
I think it was in Memphis, So he went, or Sun Studio, whatever it was, and he went there and he sang for, I think it was Sam Phillips, and he tried to sound like Bing Crosby. He tried to sound like whoever was the popular singer at that time, and it just wasn't working. And then during a break, Elvis is just fooling around with the guys, and he overhears him and goes, "No, that's your sound."
Exactly.
We all have to find our sound. We have to find our inner Elvis. And I think that's what I've managed to do more and more over the years.
Yeah, I think that's true. And this is very indicative of being a brat, right? It's owning this distinction, but part of that distinction is where you are most comfortable, right? Getting everything set so that you can really be who you are. And sometimes it does take some time. But on the road to becoming, you know, to reaching your brat destiny, let's say, sometimes there can be a little bit of overlap in terms of, you know, you're maybe juggling a couple of careers, you're juggling a couple of businesses, you're trying to kind of eliminate things and find your right direction. And when I look at your story and I think about the times when you were a young lawyer and the other lawyer that said to you, you know, I see you during the day, you know, Tsufit, and at night, gosh, you know, because she went to one of your shows that you were, I guess, doing at night while you were lawyering by day. And she said, you're a totally different person. You've got the audience in the palm of your hand. And I'm just thinking, first of all, what was that like? I mean, I know there's a performative aspect to being a lawyer, but what was it like to be kind of doing those two, like we say, kind of two different personas in a way? And then what was that moment of that point of no return when it was like, okay, I'm chucking the law, going to the limelight, I'm going to showbiz. I mean, that's a major decision. So tell us a little bit about what that dichotomy was like and then what caused the decision.
Yeah, well, first of all, you remind me of Brian Linehan. I don't know if people know who he is, but Brian Linehan was an interviewer in Canada, and I think he interviewed a lot of famous people like Barbara Streisand and whatever, and he'd be interviewing a person, and she'd say to him, and the, you know, most famous people in the world, and she'd say, "How did you know that? How did you know that?" And oh my God, Kathy, you were the most prepared. I mean, I do a ton of interviews, but like you're almost quoting verbatim from my book, and I'm so impressed. And I almost forgot about that story, but it's true. I was a new lawyer. I think it was my first law job, and they had not planned to hire me. Well, what happened was, okay, we went to the interviews, and there was kind of a lineup. You went to this lawyer, and then if they liked you, you went to this lawyer, and if they liked you, you went to the head honcho guy, right? So finally, I get to the third, I get to the head honcho guy, and he goes, "Oh my God, I just offered the job to somebody else like 2 seconds ago, and if she takes it, like, I don't know what I'm going to do because I prefer you." He told me privately, "I want to hire you." And he goes, "You know what? I'm the head honcho here." He didn't use those words, but he said, "You know what? I have some pull around here, so maybe we can hire both of you." And if she takes it, we'll hire both. Anyway, she took it. He hired both of us. And they didn't have another office because they only had one position. They only had one office. So we had a big office and we had to share it until they built a partition and gave us each our separate office. That's how this woman knew me so well, because we shared an office and she saw me by day. And then at night I would go perform. And like you said, I was a different person. And you know what? For the whole 10 years, I really never came into myself as a lawyer in that way. I mean, when I was with clients one-on-one, I was myself. But I was always an employee when I was a lawyer. I never had my own firm. It wasn't something I really aspired to do. So I never really stepped into that fully in the way that I probably would have if I had started my own business. But so what happened was I had 4 babies in 4 years, boom, 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 boom. 4 daughters, all girls. We never got the boy formula right. And I'm so happy. I mean, I love having daughters, not
Yeah.
good. So and the oldest was not 4.5 when the youngest was born, and there were 2 in between. So I get back from my maternity leave, my 4th. Oh, by the way, I had my first baby 9 months to the day from when I joined the law firm, the first, my first job. They had never had a pregnant lawyer before, never had to face. They had another woman, but she hadn't had the audacity to have a child. She wasn't bratty enough yet. Although after she saw my example, what does she do? I have a couple of kids. She copies me. She has a, and they never expected that she would. So look at the trouble that I caused.
I love it. I love it.
True that. So anyway, I get back from maternity leave 2 weeks after I get back from my 4th. Oh, by the way, I just to fill in a little more context. After my first baby is born, they throw me a shower. They give me a car seat. The head honcho guy gives me this big beautiful gift of like a horsey that the kid can ride, whatever. Like not a real. Anyway, second kid is born. He visits me. He brings me these marionettes, beautiful made of wood, right? Third kid is born. Nobody in the firm says a word to me. Like
well, this is like practically year by year, almost, right? You're having a child.
Well, it was year by year.
Yeah.
Fourth kid is born. Cone of like they don't know who I am. They don't, they free. Anyway, it was just like
because you were a baby machine. My gosh,
I was a baby machine. I was bold. I was relevant. So anyway, so I have this kid, and 2 weeks after I get back from my 4th maternity leave in a row, they give me notice.
What? Seriously?
Seriously, yeah.
So this is 10 years in law, and within that...
No, it wasn't 10 years at that point. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I had one job for a couple of years, then I had this second job. I guess I was there at the second job about 6. Anyway, it's kind of complicated how it all works out in terms of, but anyway, and by the way, I stayed longer because they didn't like kick me out the door. They gave me notice, but it was a working notice, and they gave me 8 or 9 months notice. I mean, back then that was great notice, right? It was very respectful. It wasn't like they were kicking me out. They just said, like they wanted to move to a more partners model. I wasn't a partner. I was on the mommy track, and there really was a mommy track in those days. I mean, I had 4 babies, right?
Yeah.
I remember being in the elevator one day and leaving at like 5:30, and one of the partners said to me, looked down his snooty nose at me, and said, "Oh, banker's hours," and I had to schlep up like an hour and a half to get home. I was an hour and a half to work, an hour and a half home, like 2.5, 3 hours. And then I come home and I have to do the mommy shift with 4 babies. So he didn't understand that. He also had 4 kids, but he had a wife. So
exactly. You just didn't have the wife.
He happened to be a lawyer, but anyway, they had, I think, 2 nannies at the time. So he didn't really get my thing. Anyway, so it was really a very interesting moment, because after that happened, I thought, okay, I did kind of look for a law job after that, because that's what I was qualified to do.
Yeah.
But I looked more in my neighborhood, and there wasn't a lot. I lived in suburbia. There wasn't a lot going on up there, and it really was a case of wanting to be more present for my children. So I thought, okay, you know what? Maybe this is my chance. I had always had that, yearning to be a singer, an actress, a comedian. Yeah. And, I kind of had that Peggy Lee, is that all there is?
You have a fabulous voice. I've heard it. I've heard you sing.
So I thought, no, that's not all there is. Maybe I can go be a singer. Maybe I can. Anyway, so I did that. And for about 6 or 7 years, that was kind of my thing, right?
So law, sorry to interrupt, the law at the same time as having some stage of 3 or 4 kids. So 3 things that you're juggling. The kids, the law, the singing.
Lawyer. All 4 kids while I was a lawyer.
Okay.
Then I left law to be a singer, actress, comedian, and I was on a sitcom for 4 years, a national TV sitcom. I did stand up on national TV a few times. I sang at festivals. I did all that while the babies were young. I worked on my album. I did, put out an album called Under the Mediterranean Sky. And, but then at some point I thought, you know what? I got 4 kids. I really should feed them more than once a week. So
You should do what? What was that again? Sorry. You should.
I really should feed the children more than once a week, because, when you're an actor, singer, comedian, Jan Arden had this thing that she said she's famous. I don't know if people know her in the US, but in Canada, she's a famous singer.
Yeah.
And she said, Canada's the only country where you can headline at Maple Leaf Gardens and still have to take the subway home.
Yes.
Sadly,
yes.
And Maple Leaf Gardens doesn't exist anymore. It's kind of like Madison Square Gardens for those.
Yeah, now it's a grocery store, but oh well.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Canada for you. But anyway, so our home and native land, love Canada. Glad to be here. So I thought, okay, well, what can I do out of what I have? What can I make with the ingredients? How can I Iron Chef this thing, right? How can I? So I've got the humor, I've got the, the persona, the personality, I love telling people what to do. If they would pay me money to do that, even better, right? I was advising people for free. So when I figured, whoa, people pay for that? It's interesting. I had a similar experience with my CD, with my album when it came out.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get it in libraries, right? So I was in one of the libraries in Toronto once, and I saw a CD of a band that I knew, and I said, wait, how do I get my CD in your library? Thinking it would be an honor just to have my CD in the library. She goes, well, we buy them. Said, oh my God, that was mind blowing. What? You would pay me money for it? Like, I just want my. So actually, she ordered 6 of them, and then you know what? I ended up selling, I don't know, over 1,000 CDs, maybe almost 2, from my home. They were sitting in my basement while I had 4 kids, no car that would fit. We had a car that fit 3.
Yeah.
At the most. And so I did it just, from my basement while I was home, with that epiphany that libraries buy. I didn't know they did. I had
no, I didn't know that either. Nowadays, they probably
bought like 35 CDs for me.
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
So Tsufit, tell me a little bit, if we just backtrack to this is incredible. And this is life, right? Where everything overlaps. We don't have a clean through line from here to here to here. But I'm sure you must have gotten some pushback from dropping the law career. What was that like? Because it's one thing to make the decision, which is kind of scary. It's a bit of a gulp moment. But then to get from everywhere else, the feedback.
Kathy, you have no idea. Okay, first of all, spousally speaking, not that thrilled. Okay, he married a lawyer. Parentally speaking, may they rest in peace. At that time, I remember my dad was visiting once, and I had two binders where, in those days, our reference letters or, whatever, our testimonials, people would write a letter on their letterhead and give it to me, and I would laminate them in this plastic, and I would put 3 holes, and I would put them in a binder, because you'd go to trade shows or whatever. Like, whenever I spoke, they'd give me a trade show booth. I never rented one, but I always got them, and I would have 2 binders of these laminated referral letters. Tsufit's so great at this. So my dad is visiting, and I'm showing this book to my dad, and he's looking through, and this one's a PhD, and this one's an MBA. These people are giving me referrals, right? And he goes, like, is this for real? Like, he didn't believe that those were real. Like, to my parents, it was ridiculous. To my, everybody thought it was ridiculous what I was doing, until it got to the point that I was actually earning a living doing it. I actually got fully booked within 10 months of when I started, and it's something I used to brag about at networking meetings. And then
now fully booked as a singer and performer, or in your coaching business?
No, as a coach.
Oh, okay.
I was never fully booked as a performer. I don't know anybody who is.
Yeah. Well, that's the point that I was curious about, exactly, because we go from what seems to be a pretty secure, well-paying and increasingly well-paying career, right? And then we go to
asking about what they thought when I went to be a singer. Oh, that was even worse.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Yeah.
Going to sorry, I missed that. No. It's like, you're leaving the law to be a what? No, that was like nobody was okay with that. Nobody. Like, that's not realistic, and you've got kids, and the pushback on that, I can't even, like, I probably blocked it out. When they talk about blocking, I probably blocked that out, because I skipped straight to coach, where I also got resistance.
Yeah.
But not as much once I started earning a living doing it.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Actually, Kathy, your question reminds me of something. Okay, so there was a national TV documentary series where they profiled interesting women who were on second careers.
Yeah.
So the guy asked me, the interviewer asked, there was one about me. One of the episodes, one of the documentaries was about me. And he asked me, so Tsufit, tell us about the hard times. Tell us about the sacrifice, all that stuff, right? So the truth is, I'm a very private person and I don't like to air my stuff.
Yeah.
So I said, it's been pretty fine. Things have been great, whatever. The guy turns off the camera, right? The producer comes over to me, director, whoever he was, and says, Tsufit, this is a documentary. We need obstacles. We need challenge. Because that's the flow of their show. Where the person was, the obstacles they faced, where they got. And I was trying to smooth through the rough. So I came up with some stuff about, so we don't take the kids, on these big vacations. And we, whatever I came up with in the moment. And they aired the documentary, everything was fine. But the truth is, I don't like to dwell on it because I like to do my hard work in private. My dad once sent me this picture of a duck, which I posted on my back of my door, which showed somebody, a duck smoothly guiding on the water and paddling like crazy underneath. Yes. And that reminds me also of, there was an article in the Ottawa Sun about me where it says her name means hummingbird, and she's flapping her wings so quickly that you don't see them moving.
Yes.
And it's true, I flapped.
I hope you're enjoying the episode. If you are, go ahead and click like. And while you're there, click the subscribe button as well so you don't miss another episode. Now let's get back to the show. To be a brat, Tsufit, and I know you know this, we have to expand into the unknown. That's how we're going to get our brat legs. That's how we're going to really own it, right? We can't contract into where it's safe. That's never going to work. But that is a huge, huge order for a lot of people, because you're juggling, I don't know, I don't want to get rejected. I don't want to do this. I want to do that. How do I carve out my space? And then how do I leap into something where I don't feel there's a net? And you've done a heck of a lot of leaping, it seems to me. Can you give our audience a little bit of a sense of how you would, on a fairly deep level, because I know we've all been through some of these situations. How would you counsel them to be able to expand into that unknown?
It's not always a huge leap that I take. Like, for example, when I started with my coaching business, right, in terms of pricing myself, let's say, I asked everybody else what they charge, and then I just charged more, right? And because I kind of knew that I'd be able to attract it, right? But then once I got the more, I thought, okay, I'm going to charge this 3 times. Once I get that, I'm going to increase it again. Then I'll charge it 3 times. Then once I'm confident, I'll increase it again. By using that method, I guess, what do you say, 8-fold? I mean, like almost 10 times, 8 to 10 times what I was charging in the beginning, and people are still paying it. But if I had done that right away, all at once, I'm not sure I could have done it. Like Dan Kennedy, who's a marketing mentor of mine and many other people, famously told people, you can just add a 0 to the end of your prices and people will pay it in most cases, right? Now, I've never just done that. But the same thing with clients. I've counseled them that, they'd come to me and I have a client who's a lawyer, and, he was charging a certain hourly rate. He was attracting a certain retainer. And I said, oh my God, we can increase that. Like, the retainer 10-fold for sure. The hourly rate maybe double. And he didn't believe me. They never believed me, right? They never believed me. So we start modestly. We don't take the huge leap. We take it, in little leapettes. Little steps. Because after I take the first mini leap, I say, okay, I'm still here. Okay, I'll take another little. Now, I know there are many people say, just fly out of the plane or build the parachute while you're on your way down. I do not want to, between you and I, be in the position of building the parachute on the way down. I know that's what entrepreneurs are counseled to do. That is not what I do. That is not what I counsel my clients to do. I want to make sure that there's a bit of a foothold. It doesn't mean that I don't aim to get to that end result. Yeah. But to take it all in one leap. Now, there are times when my heart is pounding like crazy. I'll give you an example of that. So I used to go to a ton of conferences in the US, like sometimes 4-on-1 trip, right? Like I go for 3 weeks, each one's like 3 days. Yeah. I'm going to LA and then I'm flying to Dallas or whatever, and I would back to back them, right? And often there were 1,000, 1,500 people in a humongous ballroom, and I'm just one of those audience members, right? I'm a nobody like everybody else. And then there's like Joan Rivers was on stage at one of them. Paul Abdul was on stage in another one. Like, you know.
Yeah.
I go to these conferences, and I know that in every conference there's a moment, or sometimes I don't know ahead, but there's a moment where they say, okay, we're going to take 2-3 questions from the audience, right? Now, if I really just wanted to know the answer to a question, I would look online, I would look in a book, I would ask somebody privately. I'm not going to waste an opportunity like that to ask some silly question, right? There was John Rich, who was not American Idol. Anyway, he won one of these. The Apprentice, I think he won.
Okay.
Country singing star. Anyway, he was there. So with all 3 of these people that I've just mentioned to you, plus many others, they get to that is, does anybody have a question thing? I'm sitting in the audience out of 1,500 with my book in my hand or whatever, and I'm saying to myself, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Like, I'm just, because part of me is saying, Tsufit, you know, there's 1,500 people in this room. You could meet them one-on-one in the hallway. Maybe you'll meet 10, 15, 20, right? But you're not on stage. You're not the, you know, this is, and meanwhile, people are running to line up, and I'm, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Because I don't want to embarrass myself in front of 1,500 people. But while I'm thinking about it, I force my body to get up and run to the microphone. Because I know the other part of me is going to convince myself to do it. So, and then I have to ask a question, which is not really a question, but it has to be posed as a question, or else there's no excuse for being there, right? So Joan Rivers, I asked her, there's actually a reference to Joan Rivers in the book. I don't have the exact page here, but anyway, so I you know, hi Joan, I'm Tsufit, author of this book, Step into the Light. And, you know, on page 18, whatever the page is, I write about you, Joan, in the book, and I wrote that when I was in university, when I was in law school, I wrote you a letter when you had the Late Show with Joan Rivers. She had it before Arsenio Hall. And I asked to be on your show as a singer, and you wrote me back a letter saying, well, we booked through this and da-da-da. And I actually have a letter, which I actually brought to the conference in case this happened. I brought a photocopy of it from me. And so my question is, would you have actually signed that, like signed Joan Rivers? Was that actually you, or did you have handlers who did that? Now, this was all just something I thought up pretty quickly on the spot. And she goes, no, then it would have been me, right? So I said, you know what, then I want to give you a copy of this book where I write about that story, and there's a photocopy of the letter that you sent me in the book. And she goes, come on up. So I go up to the stage. Now, I didn't get on the stage, but I go to the stage and I hand her the book. The reason I say all this to you is because you asked about taking leaps. For me, those are times when my heart is pounding, because let me tell you, Kathy, it doesn't always work. There have been 1 or 2 times that I've done that, where it's obvious what I'm doing. It's not comfortable. I look like somebody who's just grabbing the mic to show off. Which I do not want to be that person. Nobody wants to be that person. You can never predict exactly if something's going to work, which it does 99% of the time, or fall flat. So those are risks that I do take. You know, I don't always take them. There are times that the person who says stay seated wins, but 99.9% of the time, I do it.
And I love this. And, you know, this gets to the point of the whole idea of risk. And what I also think about, which is alignment. You know, when we get a thought of something that we really want to do, like you did there, and if it is genuine and it's aligned with who you are, it's something that is just such a Tsufit thing. And it's like, oh, wow, what a, you know, and then you get that small little voice saying, no, no, no. If that is aligned, then to me, that's not the
big
risk.
Voice. Sorry.
What's that?
Big voice no, you got it backwards.
Oh.
The big voice says, no, no, no. The small voice says, please go up to the mic. Nah, I don't want to.
So would you say the small voice was you speaking from your core and who you are?
They're both me. You know, I think this is, you know, people try to make it like, you know, the real you. No, they're both me. Okay. I like to be comfortable just like everybody else. I like to not be embarrassed just like everybody else. I like to not be rejected just like everybody else. I also like when they applaud for me like everybody else. I like when they come up to me in the hallway and say, Tsufit, you're so awesome. That, you know, I like when they come up to me and buy my books. There have been times, that 10, 15 people came up to me in the hallway afterwards to buy my book because I held it up for 3 seconds in front of 1,500. So I think it's the bigger voice that says, nah, you don't need the, but that, it's like that piece of dirt that, in the pearl that they say in the clam or whatever it is that makes it's that little nudgy voice. You could, no, you could not,
Exactly.
It's not just me. There's a story that I tell in the book about Richard Paul Evans, who wrote a little book called, I think it's called The Christmas Box or something like that. Anyway, he wrote this book for his 2 daughters, never planning that more than his daughters, maybe, I think he made 10 copies, 20 copies for his family. And finally somebody said, you should publish this. Anyway, he publishes it. He self-publishes it. He goes to a writer's conference and he bought a table. He took all his money and $500, I think, in Denver. He buys a table. Nobody is at his table. Nobody. Why? Because they're all in the other room, watching, 5 big famous authors signing autographs on stage. Nobody's talking to him, right? He peeks in the other room. He sees that one of the 5 seats is empty.
Yeah.
He walks up. He takes the seat. He sits there and pretends that he's one of these 5, right? Somebody that works there comes up to him and he goes, oh my God, they're going to kick me off. They're going to kick me off. They're going to kick me off, right? Just like I'm scared when I go to the mic, right?
Yeah.
They're going to kick me off. The person goes up to him and says, sir, would you like a glass of water? But
Yes.
And he stayed. Well, next year he is legitimately on this stage. Simon & Schuster, in a bidding war, paid, I think, $4 million for the hardcover rights of his book. So one of the rights, he kept the other rights. So that's another example of exactly what I did, taking the leap. He was scared out of his mind. And by the way, he was not at Tsufit. He was a truly shy guy. So it proves that anybody can do this.
And I remember that story from your book. It was amazing. And this is the thing, whether we call it, the small voice or whatever, it's, when I think about it, I opened a talk, the first talk for my business when I was website copywriting. And I opened it with a story that was from my personal blog, which at the time was called B.R.A.T Kathy, and still is.
Story.
And it was the story of a woman who chipped her tooth in the middle of an orgasm. And the story was a blog post that was in alignment with the blog because it was about living rich and living deep and not just kind of skimming along the surface and, having real experiences. And the talk was about using your voice on your website to make your brand irresistible. Your voice had to align with your website the same as the voice in that blog post did with the meaning of the blog itself. So it was one of those moments, like you say, where I got out there and I thought, okay, I'm going to go out and talk about this orgasm, and all of these business women are either going to be in the room and love it, or I'm going to be by myself. I'm going to be parting the seas. But it's that moment, like you said, and like he said, where it's like, this is this little voice saying, no, this is the right thing. This is the moment. Seize it, right? Seize the moment or let it pass. And maybe there'll be more moments, but it's like the thing that you always wanted to buy. And you said, no, it's too expensive. I didn't buy it. It's always in your head. I don't know if you've ever had that. I had that with a couple of things, a light fixture that I didn't buy like 30 years ago. And every so often I still think about it.
The road not taken, Robert Frost.
Exactly.
But it's not a black and white thing.
No.
I was once at a talk at a networking event, and I think she was a VP of Nortel or something, and she started crying from the stage while she was talking, and she goes, "Oh, excuse me, it's hormones, I just had a baby," or whatever. And she was so embarrassed to be crying. And like 50, 60 women in the audience were, oh no, we love that you're being authentic or whatever, right? So on the one hand, she was being authentic, and it worked. I've also seen situations where it doesn't work and it's totally inappropriate, and it's like people overshare or they're overly honest. Or I was once at a networking meeting and somebody's like blabbering about her whole life story to me, and I think like, I just met you, like. So it's really not black and white, and it, whether it's the big voice or the small voice, or it's appropriate or it's inappropriate, all of this is nuanced, and all of this is like playing the violin. And you know what? Like I admitted to you, sometimes you'll get it right, sometimes you won't. Like I was on stage at Yak Yak, it's a comedy club in Canada, 2 nights in a row. It was an open mic night. And one was the downtown Yuck Yucks, one was the Midtown.
Mhm.
The downtown, it worked great. The people were laughing their heads off. I have a recording of it. It's like, I'm the funniest person on earth, right?
Yeah.
I go the next night, do exactly the same routine. Not one person cracks a smile. And that was the night that the head of the whole Yuck Yucks chain franchise came up and talked to me, and he saw me like bomb. I mean, I wasn't
Yeah.
terrible, but
Yeah.
nobody laughed, you know. Luckily,
Yeah.
I'm also a singer and I sang a little, so it worked okay. But the point is, it's risky, and there's nobody for whom it always works. I recently saw Madonna, I think, at Eurovision. She was off key and she was dressed in braids and like a little Heidi outfit. The woman's like, what, 62 or
Yeah,
something? It just did not work.
Yeah.
You know, then again, I saw Sophia Loren. She's like 86 and she's stunningly gorgeous in the movie. You know, and it works with her and her persona and her brand. So sometimes you have to take that risk that maybe it will work, maybe it won't.
Exactly. And you have to read the room. I mean, before I gave that talk, I met with the woman who ran the group, and she was delighted. She thought it was fabulous. So, you know, I didn't go in there and just kind of drop that, you know, without having just kind of tested the waters ahead of time. So yeah, it's aligned with who you are, with where you want to go, and then read the room, or be aware that the room may change as it did for you in the different evenings.
Even if you read the room, sometimes you still
yeah,
you just can't win. You know?
And it's a long game.
Do your best.
Exactly. And realize it's a long game, and it's got a lot of twists.
And by the way, we're doing what's that when you talk over, which I love because we're engaged. So when you read the room, let's say you bomb, right? Let's say 99 out of the 100 people hate you.
Yeah.
That 100th person might love you and bring you in to headline, you know, that person's conference. So even when you get it wrong, you can get it right. I just heard about Charles Schultz. I was listening to a podcast who did the Peanuts thing, and he did. Remember when we were kids, they had those half-hour specials.
Yes.
On television, and the Christmas special was actually commissioned by Coca-Cola. I didn't know this. This is according to a podcast that I just heard, Terry O'Reilly, which I love. And so they played it for CBS, and CBS hated this. There was no laugh track, you know, even though it was supposed to be funny. The voices were actually kids, not adults pretending to be kids. It was a very slow pace. Remember, those shows were really kind of awkwardly, slowly paced. And so CBS hated it and didn't want to air it. Turns out Coca-Cola loved it, you know, and this one reviewer that didn't say a word while he watched it and went and reviewed it for Time magazine said it's the best show he's ever seen, and it's probably going to last 100 years, and it's lasted over 50 years so far. So the point is that even when everybody hates what you're doing, there might be one person, you know, who doesn't. Or if in that crowd really truly everybody hates it, you can do it again tomorrow for somebody, the exact same thing, and win them over. So the point is, like you're saying, to be you, to be authentic, to be relevant. I mean, relevance is really the test, because if that's why I turn down a lot of things. You know, I turned down podcast interviews. I've turned down TV shows. I've turned down talk. If I'm not relevant to that audience, if that audience isn't relevant to me, if it's not the right fit, even though I might, you know, succeed in front of that audience, but why should I do that?
Yes.
You know?
Exactly. The opportunities that fit, the alignment, all of that. Oh my gosh, Tsufit, I could chat with you for ages, but I really respect your time, and I'm so glad that you made time for us today. Thank you so much. Where can they get this, and where else can they reach out to you?
Oh my God.
Let's just do that together. There we go. Put yours on.
1, 2, 3. You can get it at www.spotlightbook.
Spotlight Books?
No, spotlightbook, singular.com. That's another, the entrepreneurs listening, buy a forward, $10 at GoDaddy, or 20, whatever it is now. Buy a forward for your book. Spotlightbook.com will take you straight to Amazon where you can buy the book. I have to ask you, please do not during this COVID time buy the physical copy of the book unless you buy it used. Go ahead and buy it used from Amazon or from eBay, or buy the Kindle version because I don't want to have to supply Amazon at this.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the interview, click like and subscribe, and share this interview with any brat that you know. And don't forget to ring the bell. That way you'll get notified whenever we put out new content. See you soon.